The dark void of the outer rim stretched infinitely, speckled with distant stars and drifting asteroids that glittered like shards of crystal. Amid the emptiness, the planet Valor Prime hung like a jewel, a city of levitating spires and glowing walkways, all bathed in the soft violet light of its binary suns. In the highest chamber of the central spire, 3 Zigarian elders convened around a floating hexagonal table, its surface alive with holographic projections of emerging species. Elder Criven, his obsidian-black scales reflecting the ambient glow, ran clawed fingers along the table, activating the newest projection. Our sensors indicate a planet brimming with life and unpredictability, he hissed, his voice a low vibration. This one? Unusual. Adaptive. Dangerous in ways we have yet to define. Across from him, Valira, her emerald-green scales shimmering like liquid glass, tilted her frilled head. Their social structures are primitive, but their communications are persistent. Too eager almost. And yet, beneath that eagerness, there is something unfamiliar, a subtle confidence. Intriguing. The youngest elder, Thaler, golden-scaled and long-limbed, leaned forward. Our usual strategy should suffice, he said with a hissed chuckle. Present the threat of the Zorg Empire. Inspire fear. Offer protection in exchange for their cultural and biological artifacts. We have perfected this formula over centuries. Why deviate now? Criven's eyes, dark and reflective, fixed on the projection. Because, he said slowly, this species does not react as the others do. In the preliminary scans, their physiology and social data suggest a resilience that borders on recklessness. They may not respond to fear in the expected manner. Valira flicked her forked tongue, tasting the air like a strange ritual. Perhaps, Elder, it is simply overconfidence. Many emergent species believe themselves stronger than reality supports. It will be a delightful lesson. Criven narrowed his eyes. Or perhaps, he murmured, they are smarter than we anticipated. The chamber shimmered as a holographic feed linked to Earth's orbit activated. A human figure appeared on the screen, standing in what appeared to be a polished control room aboard a massive orbital station. The human's hair was dark, almost black, and their eyes gleamed with the intensity of someone unafraid. I am Captain Leora Kessler of the United Earth Coalition, the human said, voice calm but commanding. We've received your message regarding the Zorg Empire. You wish to offer protection? Criven's claws twitched involuntarily. Humans were supposed to panic at the mere mention of the Zorg, just as every other species had. Yet this one stood tall, poised, entirely in control. Valira whispered, remarkable composure. No fear. No desperation. And yet, I sense calculation. Strategy. They are observing us as much as we observe them. Criven's voice was measured as he addressed the human. Captain Kessler, the Zorg Empire is a threat unlike any encountered. Worlds are harvested, populations enslaved, cultures obliterated. Our collective offers preventative measures. In exchange, we request select biological samples, cultural archives, and linguistic data. A fair transaction for survival. Leora's expression did not falter. I see. You are offering this as a transaction. And the Zorg, how imminent is this threat? Thaler hissed softly. They will ask for specifics, he murmured. As always, standard procedure. They are different, Criven said. Do not underestimate them. Leora continued, eyes scanning the feed as if cataloging everything she saw. Interesting. Your records of the Zorg, are these actual encounters or simulations? Valira froze. This was not the expected panic or submission. She questions authenticity. Bull. Audacious. Criven inclined his head, keeping the tone neutral. Authentic. Witnessed and verified. The Zorg's reach is vast, their conquest, indiscriminate. Leora paused for a moment, then smiled faintly. Fascinating. And your offer of protection. How exactly do you intend to safeguard us? I assume there is no military force being deployed. Thaler's golden eyes flared. Correct. We advise. We facilitate cultural integration protocols to reduce your planetary footprint's attractiveness to the Zorg. It is a preventative measure. Criven felt a chill crawl along his spine. Humans had the audacity to ask questions rather than beg. Every other species had been compliant, frightened, desperate. Yet this species was entirely different. Leora's voice carried a hint of amusement now. I understand. And the cost for this guidance. Valira hissed under her breath. Predictable. But still, their confidence unnerves me. Criven's claws hovered over the interface. Some genetic samples, cultural artifacts, linguistic patterns. Minimal, yet sufficient for your records. Leora's smile widened slightly. I will need to consult with my colleagues before making any decisions. Thank you for your transparency. The feed went dark briefly, and the three elders exchanged glances. Moment, Valira hissed. What, moment? This species uses time differently? Thaler's tone was sharp. Do not assume weakness. They may be calculating. Always calculating. Criven's red-tinted scales darkened in thought. If they are bluffing, it is audacious. If they are honest, we have misjudged them completely. 4 minutes later, the feed reactivated. This time, Leora was flanked by several other humans, dressed in uniform. Their posture was rigid, disciplined, yet their eyes burned with something the Zagarians had never encountered: certainty. Captain Kessler, Criven began, his tone measured, your deliberations? We've reviewed the data you sent, Leora said calmly. We don't need your protection. The Zorg Empire has already been neutralized. Entirely. By humanity. A stunned silence fell over the chamber. Criven's secondary eyelids twitched in disbelief. Valira's green scales paled to near white, and Thaler's golden sheen took on a sickly green tinge. Criven whispered, Impossible, they cannot. Leora's eyes met the three elders in a piercing gaze. I assure you, Elder Criven, Elder Valira, Elder Thaler, it is not impossible. We act when necessary. We do not wait for fear to dictate our actions. Valira hissed, her usual calm shattered. This species, they've destroyed what we have used as the perfect tool of terror for millennia? Criven's claws clenched. A single planet, defeating the Zorg. It defies all precedent. Leora's smile returned, not warm but assured. We call it survival. And foresight. You, on the other hand, relied on deception. And now, you are exposed. Thaler's tail flicked angrily. You humans, you've turned the tables? This is unprecedented. Criven exhaled slowly, the weight of centuries pressing down. We have underestimated them. Entirely. Valira's frilled neck shivered with realization. The hunters have become the hunted. Leora's tone softened slightly, almost instructional. You revealed your methods because you assumed fear would prevail. But we are not afraid. We are prepared. We are aware. And now, we demand fairness. Genetic archives, cultural records, linguistic data, all that you intended to take, now it will be shared on our terms. The Zagarians recoiled. They were masters of manipulation, yet the humans were unmatched in cunning, foresight, and moral authority. The entire great game of the Zagarian collective was unraveling, not by force but by intelligence. Criven lowered his claws, a silent concession. Prepare the archives, he whispered. The game is over. Thaler's golden eyes met Valira's pale green ones. We have been outplayed. And in that moment, high above Valar Prime, amid the violet spires and floating walkways, the galaxy's most cunning con artists realized the truth. Humans were no ordinary species. They were predators of a different kind. The hunters had become the prey, and a new chapter of the galactic order was about to begin. High above Earth, in the orbital command hub of the United Earth Coalition, the planet below glimmered like a sapphire. Cities sprawled across continents, rivers snaked through forests, and the oceans reflected the sun in dazzling silver and blue. But despite this beauty, the hub was alive with tension. Every display, every sensor, every holographic map told a story of imminent war. Captain Leora Kessler walked briskly along the observation deck, her boots silent on the polished alloy floor. Around her, officers monitored streams of data, trajectories, weapon readiness, and the ever-expanding cloud of incoming threats from deep space. Status report, she said sharply, her dark eyes scanning the central console. Admiral Smith, a senior officer began, voice steady but tinged with urgency, the outer perimeter sensors have detected the first wave of Zorg bioships. They're approaching from the Vega Quadrant, traveling at FTL velocities. Estimated arrival in system, 72 hours. Leora's gaze remained fixed on the stars beyond the transparent dome. And their numbers? Hundreds, the officer replied. All forward assault fleets. High survivability, heavy bioarmor, offensive capability far beyond anything in known Council space. Leora nodded once. Then we act. Activate the Project Prometheus protocols. Begin mass mobilization of kinetic and antimatter defense units. Target all incoming vectors. Below the orbital station, on Mars and the Moon, concealed launch platforms erupted in synchronized precision. Kinetic projectiles, each the size of small skyscrapers, accelerated along magnetic rails to velocities approaching 60% the speed of light. Even the vast bioships of the Zorg, with their advanced organic hulls, would find no defense against such mass in motion. Meanwhile, deep in underground silos on Earth, antimatter warheads were primed. FTL-capable delivery missiles hummed with controlled energy, ready to intercept and annihilate any surviving Zorg vessels attempting evasive maneuvers. Engineers worked silently, efficiently, every move calculated, every procedure rehearsed countless times. In the command hub, Leora addressed her team. Remember this, the Zorg rely on fear and chaos. They have conquered countless species by overwhelming systems with psychological terror. We do not panic. We do not hesitate. Every strike is deliberate. Every action has purpose. Her words echoed through the command center, instilling focus and confidence. Around her, humans moved with quiet precision, their calm a stark contrast to the wild, instinct-driven terror that most other species displayed in the face of the Zorg threat. Outside the command hub, the first wave of kinetic projectiles entered interstellar space. Each massing ton of metal moved faster than most ships could react. The Zorg fleet, massive and bioorganic, descended toward Earth in predatory formation, sensing no resistance, confident in their centuries of domination. Then came the impact. The first projectiles collided with the Zorg ships, massive explosions rippling through their organic hulls. Flesh and machinery fused in a violent burst of plasma and energy. One by one, the forward assault fleet disintegrated, reduced to glowing clouds of vapor and radiation. The remaining ships reeled, organic systems attempting to adapt, hulls hardening, protective shields forming, but too slowly. The kinetic barrage continued, wave after wave, each strike more precise than the last. In the command hub, Leora watched the feed. Target the flanks now. Synchronize with secondary antimatter units. We cannot allow them to regroup. From hidden positions on the Moon and Mars, antimatter warheads were launched at FTL velocities. Each detonated in a brilliant explosion visible from Earth, consuming multiple Zorg vessels in a sphere of gamma radiation. The surviving ships scattered in panic, some retreating toward deep space, others diving toward Earth's gravity wells, only to meet further annihilation. Admiral Smith leaned over Leora's shoulder, voice tight with awe. "Captain, their adaptation attempts, they can't keep up. Their bioarmor is failing under repeated relativistic impacts. The remaining fleet, it's breaking apart." Leora's expression remained calm, her mind calculating the next phase. Prepare Wave 3. Focus all antimatter units on the command vessels. Once their leaders fall, the rest will collapse without coordination. Hours passed in a tense blur. Every strike, every calculated movement reduced the once mighty Zorg fleet. From the orbital sensors, the destruction was clear. The Zorg, feared across the galaxy for millennia, were being systematically annihilated by a single planet's precision, foresight, and discipline. On Earth, civilians continued their lives, unaware of the cosmic battle above, save for the fleeting glimmers of fire in the night sky. Schools continued, cities thrived, and humanity moved forward, resilient, determined, unshaken. Their strength lay not only in their technology but in their psychology, calm, methodical, and relentlessly clever. Back in Valor Prime, the Zigarian elders watched the data streams transmitted from Earth. Kryven's obsidian scales gleamed darkly, reflecting the glowing explosions on Earth's orbital feed. "Impossible," he muttered. "No species should be capable of this." Valira's emerald frills twitched with unease. "They've anticipated every move, calculated every trajectory. They do not react, they predict. And they strike with precision beyond any emergent species we've encountered." Thaler's golden scales rippled in shock. Even the Council's data would not suggest that a single planet could neutralize an empire that conquered hundreds of systems. "We misjudged them entirely." Kryven's claws hovered over the console. "Their weapons, conventional and antimatter, combined with FTL coordination, they are not naive primitives. They are predators hiding behind a veil of civility. We assumed fear would dominate. It does not." Valira's voice was a hissed whisper. "And yet they do not expand. They strike only when necessary. They are deliberate, not reckless. Perhaps this is why they have survived countless threats on their own world." Thaler finally spoke, voice trembling slightly. "The great game, we thought it was ours to control. But these humans, Captain Kessler, her command, her strategy, have turned the entire galaxy's expectation on its head. They do not fear the Zorg. They understood physics, strategy, and psychology far beyond what we assumed for emergent species. Criven's dark eyes narrowed. And the most terrifying part? Valira's green gaze met his. They do not need us. They never did. We are obsolete in their presence. Above Earth, the final wave of antimatter warheads detonated, collapsing the last remnants of the Zorg forward command ships. Signals ceased, hulls vaporized, and the once feared empire fell in a mere 6 months from first contact. A single planet's defense had destroyed a civilization that had terrorized countless worlds for millennia. In the aftermath, Leora watched the remaining communications from distant galaxies. Every message, every report confirmed the victory. The Zorg were no more. Humanity had not only survived, they had altered the galactic balance of power entirely on their own terms. Back in Valar Prime, the Zigarian elders stared at the screens, understanding in grim silence that their centuries of manipulation, their elaborate great game, were now meaningless. Every calculation, every prediction, every assumption had been overturned by a species they had underestimated for the last time. Criven finally spoke, voice cold but tinged with awe. We have learned a valuable lesson. This species, humans, they are predators disguised as innocents. We are not merely witnessing history. We are witnessing the rise of a species that will define the future of the galaxy. Valira nodded slowly. And yet, they chose not conquest but defense. Deliberate. Controlled. They have shown us that power need not be tyrannical to be absolute. Thalar's tail lashed thoughtfully. We attempted to teach them fear. They taught us respect, or something far greater. Something we did not anticipate. Criven's gaze lingered on Earth's tiny blue globe, glimmering in the void. We underestimated them because we assumed they would be like all others. But humans, they are not like others. They are exceptional. And so, as the Zigarian elders retreated to ponder the implications of humanity's audacious victory, the galaxy itself seemed to pause. A single planet, long considered primitive, had defied millennia of fear and precedent. And somewhere, among the stars, humans waited, not for recognition, not for reward, but for the next challenge. Calm, clever, and unstoppable. The great game of the galaxy had just begun a new chapter, and the pieces had already been irreversibly shifted. In the glittering chambers of Valar Prime, the Zigarian elders gathered once more. The air was thick with tension, a rare feeling among their species. Crystals in the ceiling refracted starlight into chaotic patterns, reflecting the chaos in their own minds. Mizir, the oldest among them, paced slowly, claws clicking on the polished floor. We underestimated them, he admitted at last, his voice a low rumble that betrayed both fear and fascination. Every calculation, every projection, we assumed fear would dominate. And yet, they dismantled the Zorg Empire with precision, with patience, he faltered. With audacity we cannot comprehend. So Zara, her blue scales now deepening to navy in the dim light, hissed softly. Audacity is one thing. But they revealed the game, the great game, they want recompense. Every genetic sample, every artifact, every cultural archive we've collected across millennia, they demand it all. And they've given us 48 hours. Limir's golden scales glimmered sickly. 48 hours. Do you realize what that means? They have outplayed us at every level. For centuries we have controlled emerging species, dictated fear, harvested their uniqueness. And now a single species has, he swallowed, struggling to find the words. They've made us prey. Mizir leaned on the edge of the table, claws pressing into the crystal surface. We can attempt subterfuge, delay tactics, deception. But their files, the evidence of Earth's triumph over the Zorg, it's irrefutable. Any attempt to lie will be immediately detected. So Zara's forked tongue flicked nervously. Do you think it's arrogance or strategy? That they allowed us access to those files so we could see the full scale of our miscalculation? Limir's eyes narrowed. Strategy certainly. And arrogance perhaps. They are confident but they are also calculating. Every move has purpose. A low chime echoed through the chamber. The Zigarian communication interface had activated. Mizir lifted a claw, raising it slowly, signaling caution. The feed connected, and there appeared the human representative, Samantha Farias, flanked by Admiral Smith and several uniformed officers. Greetings, elders, Samantha said, her voice calm, almost deceptively serene. Her presence, framed by the stark metallic design of the human vessel behind her, radiated control. We trust you received the files? Mizir's scales darkened further. Well, and your victory over the Zorg, it is undeniable. Samantha inclined her head slightly. Good. Then you understand why we require immediate compliance with our requests. Her tone shifted subtly, authority now mingling with a hint of menace. Genetic samples from all three of you. Complete access to your cultural archives. Linguistic evolution databases. Everything the Zagarian collective has collected over centuries. Sozara hissed sharply. You cannot, this is extortion. This is justice, Samantha corrected, her sharp gaze pinning Sozara. You attempted to steal from humanity under false pretenses. You attempted to exploit a species for profit and cultural gain. Now you will make amends. 48 hours. Starting now. Limir's golden scales rippled with disbelief. And if we refuse? Samantha smiled faintly. Then we release everything. Your deception, your scams, your operations, fully documented, to the Galactic Council. You've seen the files. Do you doubt we can? Do you doubt that they will believe the evidence? Mizir's claws flexed, a nervous tick. You are a single species. Even with FTL capability, we control the narrative of hundreds of emergent worlds. You cannot. Samantha interrupted, her eyes steel. And yet we have. The Zorg were defeated, were they not? A single planet, unassisted, crushed an empire that terrorized countless worlds. If we can do that, we can expose your great game. Do you understand the implications? Silence fell over the chamber. The weight of the human words sank in heavier than any physical force. Mizir, Sozara, and Limir realized, fully for the first time, that their centuries of manipulation, deception, and control had been nullified by ingenuity, audacity, and relentless human resolve. After a long pause, Mizir finally spoke. We will comply. But understand this, human representative. Samantha Farias. This will not be easy. Centuries of heritage, of culture, of study, will not be transferred lightly. Samantha leaned forward, a small, almost imperceptible smile on her face. We expect nothing less than full compliance. And you will deliver not only the materials requested, but all three of you will provide live genetic samples immediately. No delays, no negotiations. Sozara hissed, tail flicking nervously. You are audacious even by human standards. Cleverness often masquerades as audacity, Samantha replied smoothly. You'll learn that, elders, if you haven't already. The Zagarians retreated from the feed, leaving Mizir to address his colleagues in the privacy of their council chamber. This is unprecedented, Limir whispered. We have been scammed by a primitive species. The very species we sought to exploit. They have turned the great game against us. All of it. Mizir's eyes, blood red in the dim light, glimmered with a mix of frustration and reluctant admiration. We underestimated them. We assumed fear would dominate their actions. But humans, they calculate, they anticipate, and they act with deliberate precision. They used our own game against us. Sozara's frills twitched, a sign of unease, and it had been sparked by a single planet, unbowed, unapologetically human. And somewhere, hidden among the stars, Captain Leora Kessler and her crew prepared for the next chapter, knowing that in a galaxy of predators and prey, humans would always be unpredictable, unstoppable, and unafraid. Begrudging respect. And they will not stop here. They have shown they can control narratives, manipulate information, and enforce compliance, without the need for fleets or superweapons. They wield influence without apparent force. Limir's voice was low, almost reverent. They are not merely survivors. They are predators cloaked as innocents, predators that hide their claws until the perfect moment to strike. We assumed they were naive. They proved us wrong. Mizir leaned forward, claws resting on the crystalline table. Then we comply. We deliver what they request. Every genetic archive, every cultural artifact. If they wish, we provide access to the entire historical catalog of the Zagarian collective. But we must observe, learn, understand. For centuries we have studied others. Now humans will teach us. The next 48 hours passed with an eerie efficiency. Across Valar Prime, Zagarian retrieval teams scoured archives, laboratories, and vaults, carefully cataloging and preparing materials for transfer. Genetic samples were extracted under the watchful eye of the humans' remote surveillance, ensuring authenticity and immediate compliance. In the orbital hub of Earth, Samantha and Admiral Smith monitored the progress. Every artifact scanned, every database verified, every sample recorded in real time. They underestimate how quickly we can act, Samantha said quietly, glancing at the feed. They think fear would motivate them. They don't realize they are now cooperative. Admiral Smith nodded. And yet you still treat them with, what? Respect. Samantha's eyes narrowed. Respect is not given for weakness. Respect is given for capability. They attempted deception and failed. They were honest when honesty was forced. That honesty is a lesson. And it will serve us, if we understand it properly. Meanwhile, the Zagarians themselves were struggling to reconcile centuries of hubris with the reality of human strategy. So Zara, typically composed and commanding, muttered to herself. We thought ourselves masters of manipulation. Yet here we are exposed. Our greatest weapon, the fear of the unknown, has failed against a species that does not bow to it. Limir, pacing in frustration, finally whispered, and the irony, we have revealed everything to them. All our secrets. Every trick, every strategy, now they know us as well as we know them. Or perhaps better. Mizir's gaze turned toward the viewport, Earth gleaming below. Yes. They have seen our weaknesses, our methods, our greed. And yet, they chose negotiation over annihilation. They could have destroyed us, could have erased our species from this sector. But they did not. Instead, they demanded recompense. They are sophisticated predators indeed. The humans had already begun receiving the first of the transferred materials, and with every bite, every sample, their understanding of the Zagarian collective deepened. But Samantha knew the real victory was not in the artifacts themselves. It was in the lesson, never underestimate humans. In the following hours, the Zagarians completed the transfer. The last archive uploaded, the final sample verified. Silence filled the chambers of Valor Prime, the elders sitting in stunned reflection. Then Mizir spoke almost to himself. We thought ourselves the hunters. But we have been outplayed, outmaneuvered, outthought. A species we once dismissed as primitive has rewritten the rules of the great game. So Zara's tail curled slowly around her feet. And they did it without fleets in orbit. Without intimidation. Without coercion, except for what was fair. Limir's golden scales dimmed slightly. Humans, they are remarkable. Perhaps the most remarkable species the galaxy has ever encountered. Mizir finally leaned back, exhaustion and awe mingling in his features. Yes, and now we wait. Wait to see what comes next. Because if this is the species that destroyed the Zorg, what might they do tomorrow? From across the galaxy, the ripple effects of Earth's triumph began to take hold. Other species, long subjugated or terrified by the legend of the Zorg Empire, would soon learn the truth. A new era of galactic politics, strategy, and respect had begun. The skies over Earth were calm, deceptively so. Satellites traced silent arcs over continents, FTL communication relays pulsed faintly in orbit, and the human fleet remained on standby, hidden, efficient, ever vigilant. Humanity had already proven it could destroy a galactic empire, yet their greatest victory was not the destruction of the Zorg but the lesson they had imparted to the galaxy. Never underestimate them. In the Zagarian chambers on Valor Prime, the aftermath of compliance was still unfolding. The elders sat in a rare stillness, each lost in thought. Mizir's red scales, usually vibrant and commanding, were dulled, almost muted. He traced patterns on the crystalline table, his mind replaying the past weeks in meticulous detail. We have been studied, he said finally, breaking the silence. Every move we made, every nuance of our deception, they observed, analyzed, and countered it with precision. So Zara, her blue scales reflecting the starlight from above, let out a low hiss. We are transparent to them now. They understand our strategies, our motivations, even our weaknesses. We are exposed. Limir leaned back, golden scales dimmed, his usual confidence eroded. And yet, they did not annihilate us. They demanded recompense, yes, but they also demonstrated restraint. Efficiency without cruelty. Precision without malice. How do we compete with that? Mizir's eyes, blood-red and calculating, narrowed. We adapt. We must. The humans have rewritten the rules of engagement. Fear is no longer sufficient leverage. Deception is no longer invincible. Influence now requires respect, cunning, and restraint. So Zara tilted her head, a gesture of contemplation. Restraint? Are you suggesting we emulate humans? Not emulate, Mizir replied slowly, but learn. Observe. The galaxy will not forgive repeated failures. Other species are watching. The great game, our game, is now public knowledge, at least to some degree. Humanity has shifted the paradigm. We must evolve or perish. Meanwhile, aboard the human flagship Artemis, Samantha Farias reviewed incoming reports from the Zagarian data transfer. The files contained centuries of meticulously catalogued biological samples, cultural records, linguistic histories, and most intriguingly, strategic notes about other emergent species the Zagarians had targeted. "This is remarkable," Samantha said, eyes scanning the holographic display. "Every species they contacted, every strategy employed, we can now anticipate future moves before they even reach the target." Admiral Smith, standing nearby, nodded. "And we have the added benefit of precedent. We've seen how they operate, how they calculate risk, how they manipulate fear. We now hold not only knowledge but leverage." Samantha's expression hardened. "Leverage, yes. But leverage is only useful if you understand it. We cannot be complacent. The galaxy is still full of predators. Some may be even more dangerous than the Zagarians, species who do not hesitate to destroy rather than negotiate." Back on Valor Prime, the Zagarians convened an emergency council. Their usual confidence was replaced by cautious analysis. Mizir, Sozara, and Limir had spent the last day reviewing the human methods, trying to understand the species that had outwitted them. "We underestimated their comprehension of probability and risk," Mizir admitted. "They calculate outcomes in ways we do not. Even when confronted with overwhelming danger, they do not panic, they plan." Sozara's tail flicked nervously. "And their patience, the way they allowed us to begin transferring everything, observing our reactions, it was deliberate. Every action calculated for maximum effect." Limir, finally breaking his silence, leaned forward. "They're not merely intelligent. They are adaptive. Every challenge we present, they anticipate. Every deception we employ, they see through. And the most alarming aspect, they enjoy it. This is not fear-based calculation. This is strategic audacity. A species that thrives on testing limits." Mizir's claws drummed on the crystalline table. "Then we must evolve. We must rethink how we interact with emergent species. We must anticipate human methods before they even conceive them. We cannot rely on fear alone. We must understand, predict, and perhaps respect them at least enough to survive." Thousands of light-years away, in a neutral galactic hub, other species began murmuring about the events surrounding Earth and the Zorg Empire. The news spread quietly at first. Scouts, traders, and observers passed information between systems. A planet had destroyed a galactic power previously considered untouchable. A planet had negotiated not with armies but with intellect, audacity, and strategy. The humans had achieved more than survival, they had rewritten galactic expectations. On Earth, Samantha convened a council with other human leaders, military commanders, and scientific advisors. "The Zagarians will adapt," she said, addressing the room. "We've seen the first signs of panic. They underestimate our patience, our foresight, and our willingness to act. But other species are watching and they will emulate or challenge us. We must be ready." Dr. Imani Reyes, chief strategist, leaned forward. "They've given us their archives. With this data, we can understand the mechanics of the great game across multiple species. We can anticipate potential threats and allies alike." Samantha nodded. "Exactly. Knowledge is power, but understanding is control. We must use this wisely. Our next steps are not merely defensive, they are preventative. We must shape the galactic stage, not react to it." Meanwhile, the Zagarians, forced into a rare position of vulnerability, began analyzing human behavior. Every communication, every tactical decision, every subtle gesture and negotiation became data points. They realized that humans were not only unpredictable but also highly consistent in principle. Their morality, their reasoning, their strategies, these were constants that could not be easily manipulated or undermined. Limir, unusually solemn, commented, "They value fairness, yet they wield it as a weapon. They expect compliance, yes, but their form of justice is calculated, deliberate. It is a precision we do not understand fully." Sozara, finally acknowledging the depth of their error, said quietly, "And they are patient. They do not rush to anger or retaliation. They calculate, wait, and act only when the result is assured." Mizir, deep in thought, finally concluded, "Then we must learn from them. We must adopt patience, calculation, and adaptability. We must respect the unpredictable and prepare for the audacious. The galaxy has changed and humans are the architects of that change. We were hunters. We are now observers. And perhaps students." Far beyond Valor Prime and Earth, a ripple began to spread. Other species, some allies, some predators, watched the news of Earth's victory over the Zorg Empire. The story spread like wildfire. A primitive planet had destroyed a legendary galactic power. It wasn't just a tale of war, It was a lesson in ingenuity, strategy, and resilience. The Zagarian collective, once untouchable, now sat in the uncomfortable position of reflection. They had been beaten not by overwhelming force, but by the sheer cleverness and audacity of a single planet. Their archives, their strategies, their centuries of accumulated knowledge, all had been laid bare. And yet, in that exposure there was a lesson. Power alone does not guarantee dominance. Adaptability, foresight, and courage can topple even the greatest predators. On Earth, Samantha watched the final upload confirmation from the Zagarians. Every genetic sample, every cultural record, every artifact had been transmitted successfully. She exhaled not with relief but with focus. "This is only the beginning," she said. "We've proven we can survive. Now we must ensure we thrive, and guide the galaxy into the age of humans." In the cold depths of space, Mizir, Sozara, and Limir stared at their monitors, at the evidence of human ingenuity. "Perhaps," Mizir murmured, "it is not fear that defines power, but the ability to act decisively, even when the odds seem impossible." Sozara nodded slowly. "Perhaps humans are not merely a species, but a lesson the galaxy had to learn." Limir's voice was barely above a whisper. "And now we are students of that lesson." The stars themselves seemed to shimmer differently that night, as if acknowledging a shift in the cosmic balance. The galaxy had a new player, and it was one that no predator, Zagarian, Zorg, or otherwise, could underestimate. Humanity had arrived. Earth had changed. Not physically, its continents, oceans, and cities remained, but the consciousness of its people had evolved overnight. The galaxy had witnessed their audacity, their cunning, and their ability to destroy the seemingly invincible Zorg Empire. Humanity was no longer an emergent species. They were a rising power, and they knew it. Samantha Farias stood at the United Earth Command Center, a sprawling hub of communication, strategy, and coordination. Her eyes flicked across the holoscreens displaying the Zagarian archives, interstellar trade routes, and potential allies and adversaries. Every detail mattered. Every nuance could become leverage. "Admiral Smith," Samantha said, her tone firm, precise, "compile a list of every species the Zagarians have contacted in the last millennium. Cross-reference it with galactic census data. We need to know who might already suspect or have been compromised by their schemes." "Yes, Representative," Smith replied, fingers dancing over the interface. "We'll prioritize those with militarized civilizations first. Cultural or pacifist species next. The Zagarians' data is detailed. This will take hours to process." Samantha's lips curved slightly. "Then we begin ours now. Time is a resource we cannot waste. Every species we can influence, every alliance we can forge strengthens humanity's position in the galaxy. And every move we make sends a message: we are not prey. We are participants. We are architects." Far away on Valar Prime, the Zagarian collective met again in emergency session. Their chambers were quieter than usual, subdued under the weight of their failures. Mizir, Sozara, and Limir sat at the crystalline table, reviewing reports of human activity. "They are systematic," Mizir said slowly, his red scales darkening with thought. "We warned them once. We attempted to exploit their naivety. And yet, their approach is not merely reactionary, they are strategic, anticipatory, and deliberate. Their influence spreads faster than we predicted." Sozara's tail flicked nervously. "They are consolidating power, diplomatically, militarily, culturally. And they are doing it without overt aggression. Subtlety. Calculated transparency. Every move appears deliberate yet honest." Limir's golden scales dimmed, his usual arrogance tempered. "They have weaponized integrity. They act openly, fairly, and decisively. And the galaxy admires it. Our methods, cloaked threats, manipulation, selective truths, appear petty by comparison." Mizir leaned forward. "Then we adapt. We must evolve from predators into negotiators, students of human strategy. Observe their methods, learn from their approach. This is no longer a game of fear, it is a game of respect and influence." Back on Earth, the humans began sending envoys to key galactic species. Ships, equipped with both diplomatic and tactical capabilities, left hidden in the folds of spacetime, invisible to casual scanners. Their message was simple yet powerful. Humanity is a force to be respected. We seek alliances, trade, and shared knowledge. We are capable of both defense and offense. We act decisively, but we prefer negotiation. Ambassadors, scientists, and military strategists boarded these vessels, carrying samples, data, and carefully curated records of human achievements. It was not a declaration of dominance, but of intentional presence. The first species to respond were the Kalari, survivors of the fleet that had once fallen to the Zorg. They were cautious at first, skeptical of humans' true capabilities, but the evidence was undeniable. FTL records, recovered vessels, and battle logs confirmed the humans' victory. And the humans' willingness to share the truth, unvarnished and complete, earned respect. Samantha met with the Kalari Council via holographic projection. "We do not seek conquest," she explained, her tone measured. "We wish to prevent the mistakes others have made, mistakes that cost your species dearly. Humanity acts to ensure stability, fairness, and mutual growth. Together, we can prevent others from exploiting fear or misunderstanding." The Kalari were silent for a long moment, their transparent forms shimmering in the projection. Finally, Elder Kellier spoke. "Your honesty is unprecedented. We have faced many species who claimed goodwill yet hid ulterior motives. Humans, your transparency is your strength." The humans smiled. "It is," Samantha said simply. "And it is something we hope to extend to all species who wish to build a fair and stable galaxy." Meanwhile, other species, observing this boldness, began contacting Earth with tentative interest. Trade agreements were proposed, intelligence exchanges initiated, and mutual defense pacts considered. Humanity had transformed from a potential victim into a galactic influencer, and their rise was both deliberate and unstoppable. On Valar Prime, the Zagarians watched, their minds struggling to adapt. "They are shaping alliances," Sozara murmured. "Using what we would call leverage, but differently. They appeal to trust, mutual interest, and principle." Mizir's claws drummed on the table. "This is more dangerous than any military fleet. Influence achieved without aggression cannot be countered by fear alone. It cannot be bought, bargained, or manipulated. It must be earned, understood, and respected, or observed with discomfort." Limir sighed. "And yet, here we are, having revealed everything to them. Every detail of our centuries-old operation, our tactics, our weaknesses, laid bare. And instead of retaliation, they use it responsibly to build connections, alliances, and foresight. Our deception has become their education." The Zagarians began implementing internal reforms. Their scouts were instructed to observe human methods, report on strategic movements, and study diplomacy as a form of influence rather than a weapon. Mizir, Sozara, and Limir realized they had entered a new era of the Great Game, one where intelligence, foresight, and ethical strategy mattered more than manipulation, fear, or coercion. Back on Earth, Samantha convened another council session. "We've proven our capability," she said. "But the galaxy is vast and threats remain. The Zorg Empire is gone, yes, but others may rise. We must prepare humanity not just to survive, but to lead, guide, and stabilize. Influence without domination, power without oppression. That is the human path." Dr. Reyes, studying star charts and galactic communications, nodded. "And we have a blueprint. The Zagarians' archives, their methods, their targets, everything they documented, provides insight into species that might act deceptively in the future. We can anticipate challenges, prepare responses, and guide outcomes strategically." Samantha's gaze hardened, eyes reflecting the glow of the holoscreens. "The galaxy has underestimated us for centuries. That ends now. Every species, every leader, every potential ally or adversary must understand, Earth does not bluff. Earth acts decisively, honestly, and with purpose. And when action is necessary, we execute flawlessly." Thousands of light-years away, the Zagarians convened yet again. Mizir's scales had brightened slightly, but his tone remained somber. "We are students now. We are observers. We must adapt if we are to survive among these humans, whose audacity is tempered by morality, whose intelligence is tempered by patience, whose strategy is tempered by foresight." Sozara's tail flicked once. "And if we fail?" Mizir leaned forward, crimson scales catching the starlight. "Then the galaxy will move on without us. We will be remembered not as predators or manipulators, but as relics of an era that humanity redefined. And perhaps, there is no greater lesson than being outpaced by those we once deemed primitive." Limir's golden eyes reflected the stars outside the chamber. "Then we observe. We learn. We adapt. We survive. Humanity has changed the galaxy, and we are witness to the birth of its new era." On Earth, Samantha watched the final reports from alien envoys. Trade agreements, intelligence sharing, and cultural exchanges were moving forward. Every species they contacted became a thread in a growing web of human influence. woven not with coercion but with strategy, foresight, and a firm moral compass. In the silent reaches of space, Mizir, Sozara, and Limir sat with their new reality. The game had changed. The hunters had learned humility, the deceivers had learned patience, and the galaxy had learned a new truth. Humans are not just survivors, they are architects, leaders, and a force impossible to underestimate. And as the stars shone quietly over Earth, a planet of audacious thinkers, relentless strategists, and unyielding survivors, one truth resonated across the void: the age of humans had begun. The stars above Earth had always seemed distant, quiet, and untouchable. Yet now, every human, every leader, every citizen knew they were no longer isolated. They were part of the galaxy, active participants shaping its future. The destruction of the Zorg Empire was only the beginning. The real test lay ahead: what humanity would do with its power, knowledge, and moral authority. Samantha Farias stood in the Grand Hall of the United Earth Galactic Council chamber, a vast arena that now housed representatives from dozens of species, both new allies and former skeptics. Holographic displays hovered in midair, showing planets, fleets, and trade routes, while human diplomats coordinated communications across multiple star systems simultaneously. "Report," Samantha said to Admiral Smith. "The Zigarian Collective has complied with our requests," Smith replied crisply. "All genetic archives, cultural artifacts, and linguistic records are being transferred to secure Earth repositories. Their own systems confirm the process. They are cooperative though cautious." Samantha nodded. "Good. Their willingness to comply demonstrates one truth: honesty backed by strength earns respect faster than deception ever could. Keep monitoring the transfers and ensure nothing is withheld." Across the galaxy, the Zigarians were a transformed species. Mizir, Sozara, and Limir had returned to Valar Prime, humbled yet enlightened. Their centuries of cunning, manipulation, and predation had been turned inside out by a species they considered primitive. And the lesson was clear: intelligence without morality could not compete with morality backed by intelligence. Mizir's claws tapped nervously on the crystalline table. "We underestimated them," he admitted. "We assumed fear was universal. We assumed deception was the fastest path to influence. And we assumed any emergent species could be molded through panic. But these humans, they act from conviction, strategy, and foresight. They turned our lessons against us, and in doing so, they've rewritten the rules." Sozara's blue scales had dulled from stress, yet she nodded. "We have learned more in the past few cycles than in a millennium of scamming. Observation alone will not suffice. We must study, adapt, and apply their methods if we are to remain relevant in the new galaxy they shape." Limir's golden eyes decision we make is tempered by both ethics and strategy. We are strong because we are deliberate. We are respected because we are fair. And we will continue to be trusted because we act with integrity. The crowd, composed of representatives from more than 70 species, erupted in approval. Even those species once wary of human ambition understood the unspoken truth: Earth had proven itself. Not through conquest but through creativity, resilience, and moral clarity. Back in the Zigarian chambers, Mizir, Sozara, and Limir watched transmissions of the summit. Mizir spoke quietly, almost to himself. "The galaxy has learned something profound today. Not that humans are powerful or that the Zorg Empire is gone, but that a single species acting decisively, strategically, and morally can shape the course of millennia. They do not need fear, they do not need deception. They need courage and conviction." Sozara's forked tongue flicked thoughtfully. "We have failed as predators. But we have succeeded as observers. Perhaps this is a greater accomplishment than any conquest we've achieved." Limir tilted his head, golden eyes reflective. "And perhaps, this is our opportunity to redeem ourselves. To contribute rather than merely exploit. To learn not just how to win but how to endure, coexist, and flourish in a galaxy that has changed forever." Glimmered with rare respect. "We've been students, Mizir. Students of the humans. And for once I am eager to continue learning. Perhaps, we may yet contribute positively instead of merely exploiting." Meanwhile, humanity expanded its reach, but always with purpose. They did not conquer, they did not manipulate. They built alliances, exchanged knowledge, and shared resources where it strengthened mutual survival. Worlds that once feared the human race now saw them as protectors, leaders, and catalysts for galactic stability. On the distant planet of Sereth, humans had established a joint research outpost. Scientists worked alongside alien scholars, sharing techniques for energy generation, planetary defense, and environmental restoration. Children from multiple species learned together, exchanging languages and cultures as easily as humans once traded ideas across continents. Back on Earth, Samantha addressed the first interstellar summit convened entirely under human leadership. The galaxy faces challenges, threats that no single species can face alone. We have seen the horrors of unchecked expansion, the consequences of greed, and the destruction wrought by fear. Humanity acts not to dominate but to coordinate, guide, and protect. Every alliance we form is a step toward a stable galaxy. Back on Earth, the humans were already planning the next steps. Exploratory fleets were dispatched to chart unvisited sectors, cultural emissaries traveled to planets still untouched by interstellar diplomacy, and scientists experimented with technologies that promised sustainable energy, faster-than-light communication, and planetary defense systems. Yet even in their expansion, the humans never lost sight of the lessons learned. Samantha reminded every envoy, every fleet captain, every diplomat. Strength without purpose is dangerous. Power without morality is destructive. But intelligence guided by ethics, courage applied with strategy, and foresight tempered by compassion, this is the true essence of humanity. Let the galaxy witness it, respect it, and emulate it. As the decades passed, humanity's influence spread like starlight, illuminating corners of the galaxy previously shrouded in fear and deception. Trade networks flourished, alliances strengthened, and the memory of the Zorg Empire faded not as a tale of terror, but as a testament to the resourcefulness, resilience, and audacity of humans. On Valar Prime, the Zagarians had fully restructured their society. Deception was no longer the default. Observation, strategy, and collaboration became central. Mizir addressed his peers, voice steady and proud. Let us remember the lesson that humanity taught us. Intelligence alone does not suffice. To endure, to influence, and to thrive, one must combine cunning with ethics, foresight with honesty, and action with purpose. Sozara's tail swished gracefully. We will do better. We will learn from our past and contribute to the galaxy rather than exploit it. Limir added, his tone measured yet sincere, and perhaps one day the Zagarian collective may yet be remembered not as the deceivers of millennia, but as the species that learned from humanity and thrived alongside them. Far above Earth, the stars glittered in silent testimony to what had been achieved. One planet, long underestimated, had not only survived the impossible but had transformed the galaxy itself. Humans were no longer hidden among the stars. They were architects of the future, guiding the course of civilizations with intelligence, morality, and audacity. And somewhere in the void, where the Zagarians once plotted and schemed, Mizir reflected. The game is no longer about fear. It is about influence, wisdom, and legacy. And humanity has rewritten the rules. The galaxy had learned a new truth. Never underestimate a species that dares to combine intellect with principle. And thus, a new era began, one of human-led diplomacy, interstellar collaboration, and the promise that the stars would never again be a place where fear dictated destiny, but a canvas where courage and ingenuity painted the future. The great game had ended, but the age of humanity had only just begun.